Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Three Wide. I'm your host, Radney Crawford. This week, we're going to be going over all the action from Sunday's Cup race at Phoenix International Raceway, which just concluded not too long ago, where William Byron gets his second win in a row this season, and he gets another one in overtime. And he gets this race win over drivers like Kyle Larson and Kevin Harvick, who were some of the top drivers of the day. But Hendrick Motorsports, they had another strong showing Sunday. So before we get started on this week's topic, let me tell you about our presenting sponsor, Hunt to Harvest. Now, Hunt to Harvest is back with us for our second season here at 3 Wide. And right now, if you head over to hunttoharvest.com, you can check out their new Spring 2023 selection, where they have multiple designs for turkey hunters, as well as several different types of fishing. They also still have that mystery box special going on, where you can get 3 shirts at random sent to you for just $33. And at $11 a shirt, with this kind of high quality product, you can't beat that kind of deal. So just simply click on the mystery box option, select your size, check out, and when you go to purchase it, be sure to enter that promo code RADNEY18923 to get additional savings. And you can get all this done at hunttoharvest.com. Now, while it was a solid day for Hendrick Motorsports, the big story of the day was Kevin Harvick, who was well on his way to a victory. His 10th win at Phoenix International Raceway, a track that has by far been his best track in his entire career. Unfortunately, with just a handful of laps to go, you had Harrison Burton spin out, causing a caution. This brings everyone down pit road, and a handful of drivers decided to take 2 tires, whereas drivers like Kevin Harvick and Tyler Reddick, they took 4, and that put Kevin so far back into the field just outside the top 5, where it was going to be pretty tough to overcome that and get the race victory. So Harvick, this would have been a fan favorite win. He would have locked himself in the playoffs. And to me, this is what I was talking about earlier before the season started, which is this is why I think Kevin Harvick will be a top 10 driver at the end of his career. Not many drivers go out at the top. A lot of guys, they don't get this opportunity. You look at some of the greatest drivers to race in NASCAR, drivers like Richard Petty, drivers like Tony Stewart, Jimmy Johnson, who had amazing careers, accomplished so many things, did some great things in the sport, but the last few years of their time in the sport, it wasn't up to par with what we were used to seeing. You know, and this isn't to slight any of them. These guys are legends in the sport, but it just wasn't up to what we were seeing before from these guys. Whereas Kevin Harvick, to me, is having a Jeff Gordon type season, whereas these are 2 drivers that will retire at the top of their game. Gordon, in his last year, he went out and made it to the championship race, had an opportunity to win the 5th title before he retired in his last regular season full-time race. Harvick, I feel like, is the same way. He is a guy who's still running up at the front, competing for top 5s, a guy who's always a threat for a win, and I believe will be in the title hunt by the time they come back to Phoenix this fall. So Harvick is definitely one of those rare drivers who will get to go out on top. Now, while it didn't go his way today, I do believe he will get in victory lane, and I believe it will be soon. Now, hopefully he can continue this momentum, because he's been one of the top Fords in the entire Ford camp. I mean, not only is he the best driver right now in Stewart-Haas Racing, but Ford altogether. And that's going to be another story to watch throughout the season as far as who replaces him, because this is a big loss for Stewart-Haas Racing. They're going to have to go out and get a guy who can step into Harvick's ride and compete for these wins. Right now, the best option, I believe, is Eric Jones, but that'll be another topic for another time. Right now, let's focus on Phoenix. Byron had a solid car. This wasn't a fluke win or he lucked into one. Him, Larson, Harvick were truly the top 3 guys throughout the race. Now, Hendrick Motorsports, they really had the best race from a team standpoint. All 4 of their drivers got a top 10. You had William Byron, Kyle Larson, Alex Bowman, who gets another top 10. He is the only driver so far to score a top 10 in each race that he's been in this season. Now, Josh Berry, he gets his first career top 10 in a solid run in just his 2nd race, filling in for Chase Elliott, who's healing from a broken leg. Now, this is where I'm not surprised. Berry, he was running throughout the day in that 12th to 17th range. He was a good top 15 car. Thanks to these overtime restarts, he was able to make the most of it and score a top 10. And that's what we're wanting to see from Josh. and I expect to see is him improve each and every time he gets behind the wheel of this car. And coming into Atlanta, which is a super speedway style race, there's no telling what he may be able to do with this 9 car, especially this 9 car won last year at Atlanta. So keep an eye on Josh. Look for him to have another solid day next weekend in Atlanta and Hendrick Motorsports overall at any super speedway style race. Now, Ford had a better weekend this time than last weekend at Las Vegas. You had Ryan Blaney score a second place finish. He was the top finishing Ford. And Blaney had a pretty good opportunity there to get the race win. He, on the restart before the overtime restart, he was on the inside line, second row. Seemed as soon as they took the green flag, dove underneath Kyle Larson, tried to make a run under there in the dog leg. Larson put the block there, and it was a pretty tight block. It looked almost like it was going to be like Chase Elliott and Ross Chastain last November at Phoenix. But fortunately, cooler heads prevailed here. Ryan didn't push the issue. He just really kept his momentum rolling, but didn't do anything to knock himself or Larson out of shape, and had a good opportunity to get the race win. Now, the following restarts, he didn't get as quite a good of a start as the outside line did, but a solid day for Ryan Blaney, and what was another surprisingly quiet day for Penske Racing. I really thought Joey Logano and Austin Cindric would make a little bit more noise, be up there around the top 10, especially seeing as how Logano won there and won the championship last year in November at Phoenix. But Logano was getting lapped in stage 1, and I was surprised to see that. And Cindric, he just really had a non-existent day. It was a struggle for him. So what is it something with the Penske cars? Is it something with Ford overall? They just don't seem to have the speed to match up with the Chevrolets. And I believe Ford really is kind of lagging behind on the Toyotas on speed as well. But a good turnaround for them, like I said, from last week. Ryan Preece, he finishes in 12th. Chase Briscoe comes away with a 7th place finish, along with Kevin Harvick getting up there in the top 5, top 10. So it was definitely a good bounce back weekend compared to last time with Las Vegas. Chase Briscoe coming into this race, I didn't expect a whole lot out of him. I know he won last year's Spring Phoenix race, but with the way Ford has started this season, especially Stewart-Haas Racing, I just didn't have that high hopes for Chase, to be honest with you. I didn't think he'd be around that much, but man, his team, they really got to work on this car, and Chase just slowly crawled and clawed his way up into the top 10, comes away with a solid 7th place finish. Like William Byron last year, the question is going to be, can he turn this into something? He started off strong last year like William Byron, like Eric Jones, and then kind of became non-existent, had a little flash during the playoffs where he made an improbable run and came close to getting in the Final Four. Can he have a more consistent season? That's going to be the thing to watch with Chase going forward. And the top finishing Toyota of the day was Tyler Reddick in 3rd. And last week, Tyler finished in the top 15, and I said then that this was a good point for Tyler to get his foot back forward, to get that momentum rolling back his way, was just to finish a race, because he hadn't finished at Daytona or Auto Club. He went into Vegas, got a top 15. It was a good starting point, and he was a strong top 5 car today. Comes away 3rd. You know, he was the guy with the freshest 4 tires, so if that race maybe had been another lap or 2 longer, he would have been up there and would have been a threat to get the race win. So a good call by his crew chief to get the 4 tires, and he made the most of it, came away with a 3rd place run, and hopefully now has got his, confidence back up a little bit and will look to become more of a race-winning contender from here on out. And looking at the finishing order, one of the bigger surprises to me is Trackhouse Racing, Daniel Suarez and Ross Chastain. Ross was up there in the top 5, top 8 for most of the beginning stages of the race, and even there towards the end. Daniel Suarez, while he didn't seem to have the speed Ross did, he was still a good top 15, borderline top 10 car. Unfortunately, both guys, they ended up finishing 22nd, 24th. Now, Ross, he had a deal with Denny Hamlin going into the final corner on the overtime restart, where both of them rode up into the wall. It looks like Denny, he got a little out of shape, and it put both him and Ross up in the wall and kind of ruined what would have been a decent finish for both of those guys. But Suarez, I saw he had contact with Buescher. I don't know if that threw his car off, affected his handling. But after that incident with Chris Buescher, where they made some contact on the front straightaway, he just kind of seemed to fade and didn't have the speed that he had at the beginning of the race. So while it's just one race, I was real surprised to see these guys have the low finishes that they did, especially with how hot both drivers have started out the season. Now, with today's race, they were driving the new short track package that NASCAR has implemented. They've cut back on the spoilers. One of the main things, they've also done some other things to the car to hopefully increase passing, make the races more competitive, help these cars out on the short tracks. Now, I don't consider personally Phoenix a short track. There are several out there that do. To me, I kind of put Phoenix out there on an island like Pocono where it doesn't fit into any other track, in my opinion. It's kind of its own beast over there. But this was their first test with the short track package, and while it wasn't a barn burner of a race, anything that just makes you jump up and down and excited from green to checkered, it was a solid race by Phoenix standards. It's been a while since we've seen some good racing at Phoenix. I felt like this was a solid B day where, you saw passing, you saw drivers using all sorts of different lines. It wasn't everyone glued to one spot in the turns and nobody could do anything arrow-wise. It was a solid race. You saw more passing, in my opinion. I haven't seen the numbers yet, but it seemed like more passing than we had last year. So the short track package, I feel like we really won't know what we have with it until Martinsville or Richmond. But a decent start to it here at Phoenix. I feel like it did improve the racing, but we'll see where we go from here with this new next-gen car, where the mile-and-a-half tracks really improved and gained from this next-gen car. The bread and butter of NASCAR, the short tracks and the road courses, really suffered, and those were the two more popular styles of racing in the sport. So hopefully we see with Martinsville and Richmond an improvement in their races. Martinsville kind of became the hot ticket, the race to go to, especially in the fall with it being a playoff race. There was always some sort of drama or controversy whenever they rolled around there in the fall. But last year you saw a real struggle for drivers to pass or make any moves. Hopefully we'll see a big difference at Martinsville here in the spring. Richmond, it's kind of like Phoenix. It's been a while since we've had, some really good racing at this track. That's the number one track I'm interested to see this new short track package at. Because Richmond is a short track, but you run at some pretty high speeds there, especially going into turns one. So I'm sure this is just a baseline, a starting point for NASCAR. They want to see if these changes moved it in the right direction, and they'll go from there. So I feel like they did step off on the right foot today at Phoenix. Hopefully after Richmond and Martinsville, we'll have a better picture and be in a better spot than we were last season. And on Saturday, you had the Xfinity race. Just breaking that down real quick, Sammy Smith gets his first career win in what was another solid showing by the young rookie, as well as Chandler Smith. I mean, these two rookies, these are going to be guys to watch throughout the next few years as their careers continue to progress. Sheldon Creed, he was able to overcome an accident and gets a solid top 5 finish. Plenty to go over in that Xfinity race, and we'll break all that down on this week's episode of 3 Wide, our podcast that comes out every Tuesday night. And we'll also take a look ahead and preview the upcoming race weekend at Atlanta Motor Speedway, where I'm going to be fortunate enough to go with a couple friends to Saturday's Xfinity Truck Series doubleheader. This will be my first time back at Atlanta Motor Speedway since 2002. Atlanta was the site of my first race I ever went to, the NASCAR Cup Series. Got to see Tony Stewart win there. And this will be my first NASCAR race anywhere attending since 2007 when I was at the Daytona 500. So I'm really looking forward to this race weekend. This is my first truck race, just my second Xfinity race. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to seeing what all content I can get to share back with you come this time next week. So I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their week. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel so you know when don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you know when a new video is dropped. Also, click on the links below and you can find our podcast. Like I said, comes out every Tuesday night. Hit that subscribe button wherever you listen to your podcast from so you'll know when the new episodes come out. And don't forget to check out our sponsor, hunttoharvest.com. Check out all their new selection in their spring apparel. And you can go do that at hunttoharvest.com. Don't forget to use that promo code RADNY18923. I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their week, and we will see y'all same time next week after we discuss all the action from Atlanta Motor Speedway.